Fear not, denizens, Parade is here, aka the bringer of rain, aka father of the sea and sun, aka king of the core. And today, before I introduce my special guest, I want to welcome you to the Core Creators Podcast, where I interview creators across the HoloNet. And today, we have the Greebly Guru, the props professional, member of the Galactic Mercantile Guild, and now fellow tabletop RPG player, Burgundy 78
True.
of Burgundy Squadron. And that's Adam of Junk Traders Outpost on Instagram. How are you today?
I'm good. And for the intents and purposes of this, you can call me Ian Grayson. That's my OC's name.
There we go.
And I'm really good. I'm happy to be on here. It's you've got your sort of collector's deck of Burgundy Squadron members, and you putting them in the little sleeves and labeling them. It's pretty good, man.
We're gonna get them graded, and this is gonna be like a whole thing. No, it's fun having Burgundy Squadron in on the show and kind of picking their brains, because we're all just like internet friends and we see what we're posting, but I'm always curious, and I hope the audience is curious, like where it all starts from and where it comes from. And
absolutely.
That's where I wanted to start with you. Like, how did costuming or cosplay come into your life? I'm curious.
Fairly recently, I think. It's how, I don't know. It's like this one thing leads to another. All of our friends are kind of like pushers.
Yeah.
And you want to be part of that party,
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
In the grand scheme of costuming, I'm very, very new to it.
Okay.
And it's the costuming and making and being a maker is kind of hand in hand. I make, and so I have to have a costume to do stuff with that stuff that I make, and vice versa. I make stuff for my costumes. And, they go kind of hand in glove like that. But I'd say the very, very first thing was like the reigniting of the Star Wars flame in my heart when Batuu got announced, or the Galaxy's Edge, because for a nerdy kid who lived through the original trilogy and also through the dark times. It was very, very hard times. To have this place that you could go to and live in Star Wars and ensconce yourself into it, like, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And to find out it was its own thing, that it wasn't like some planet we'd already seen, or a retread of like, all right, we're gonna have Mos Eisley's Cantina here, and you're gonna go over here and kiss a Ewok, an Ewok kissing booth or whatever.
Yeah.
That it's like this place that invites you to kind of be your own character. Like, it just unlocked so many things in me. I mean, not to mention the Star Cruiser, but I'm sure we will mention it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
But and so I think that happened, but also the pandemic happened at the same time, right? It's like right around there, 2019, 2020, and I was sitting basically right where I'm sitting right now, and in my industry that I work in, we had to rethink the entirety of the industry. We didn't know how to do it remotely. We had to really build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
And so I was in front of this computer for 7 to 8 hours a day.
Ooh, yeah.
Oftentimes in meetings where I wasn't needing to speak, but I was there to listen and to learn and things of that sort. And so I had to do something with my hands. Like, I got just insanely bored, sitting in meetings. And so those two things came hand in hand, right? Which is like, Batuu is this thing, and then I can't go there. And so how do I interact, or how do I like create this own little Star Wars corner in my galaxy? And so kind of Junk Traders Outpost was born from that. I had all these kyber crystals that were literally just sitting around. I go, I need something to put that in, and maybe I'll make something to put that in. And I kind of started from there and taught myself how to 3D print, and taught myself how to paint, and pretty much taught myself how to do whatever. And luckily now we have so many people who are very free to share their techniques. They just, we help each other all the time, and it's a nice way to live, with creative people that are not only inspiring because of what they do, but then they do it and then they share it, and it just grows everything so nicely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of the start, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's crazy is looking at your costumes and the looks that you've had that you put together. I would assume that you've been doing it for a long time. Like, it has a lot of variety, and even the photos and the places you're doing it. It's awesome. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
And
yeah, I guess I just have a good eye, perhaps. I really look at what other people do, and I go, oh, I think I could do something else like that, or my version of that, or my low rent version of it at least passes muster.
I actually love it and hate it, because then I'm like, oh, I want to do that, or like, oh, I want, and this just becomes this long laundry list of things that you want to do, or and you're probably never going to get around to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And
yeah.
And one
I have this very strange. Oh, I was going to say, I have this very strange list of all these ideas of things I want to do, and again, item number 1 has still not been done, and item 30 and 40 have been done, and then there's this mystery item I still don't know what it is. It literally says Porg helmet, and I don't know what that means. It's like when you wake up and you have this dream and you have this amazing idea and you write it down in the morning. It's gibberish. So I still don't know what Porg helmet is, but someday maybe we'll find it.
That could be
the Rainbow Connection.
That could be like the next band name, or the next podcast, Porg helmet.
Yeah, it almost sounds a little dirty, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah. This we'll keep it PG as much as we can.
Yeah.
And talking about props and you making things, what is the inception of the hydro containment units? I feel like that's your thing, the HCUs.
By complete accident, it has become my thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Billy has dubbed me the king. I don't know, king, maybe Duke, perhaps, but the king of the what does he say? The king of the custom hydro containment unit, and then there's something about being the bespoke data pad creator or something like that. Yeah. I like bespoke. That's
Bespoke's
nice.
That's a good one. I wish I tapped Billy for. I should ask. That's what I should do for the next one. Ask the community to what do you guys know this person for, and then add that.
To the intro. Yeah, like a little title. It's really nice. But yeah, I am very much known for those hydro containment units, for good or for ill, because I do like to try to change it up from time to time. I like to stretch myself. But it's actually a really important story, because that creation gave birth to the Galactic Mercantile Guild.
Oh.
Just that thing alone actually spawned a bigger thing. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Please tell.
If you've delved into my Instagram at all and the stuff I make, you'll notice that there's kind of 2 things that are in common. One is that all custom and customized. I try not to make the same thing twice, and if I do, I still vary it, right? So I've done a couple hydro containment units that are medic based. Okay. People are in the medical field and they love that red medical symbol that's in Star Wars. And so I've done a few of those, but I try to change it up by using some text or a different design element. And then the second thing that's in common is, I'd say almost all of my items have a use. It's not just an objet to be looked, although it can be, and it can be on a shelf and it can be a display piece. But to me, it has to have a function.
Right.
And so almost all of my work has a function because I use it. And I'm like the test person, right? I need something in my kit.
Yeah.
And so I build it for myself first, and I go, maybe people would like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So the HCU literally came from, it's hey, we need water bottles. We're going on planet. I think we were going to Batuu East at the time.
Okay.
And, it's hot.
Yeah.
And I had seen, I think, just some image of somebody had a kind of kitted out, water bottle. I go, I want to make my own. And I kind of did a little research and sort of saw what was out there. I had already had my shop for maybe 6 months or so, and I was looking for a new product.
Yeah.
And I crossed a picture of one that was oh, this is fantastic. This is really great. And it was more of a cylindrical one, kind of a taller, kind of like this one, although not exactly. It didn't have the little nozzle. So it was just the kind of cylindrical ones. And it had this attachment on it. And I said, oh, that's really cool. That's what Swarzifies it. It looks almost like a cooling unit.
Yeah.
Or some sort of thing that keeps whatever's in here cold or hot or whatever. Because my idea is species of whatever might not drink water.
Oh,
you know, they might drink a gas that needs up under pressure, or you know, the flea riders of Mustafar, you know, need to drink a little lava from now on, you know.
Sure,
now and then, you know, right? And so it had this really cool attachment, but I looked at who it belonged to, and it's our good buddy Mars, or Mario Suhardi.
Yeah.
Right, and so
friend of the show.
I was already. Oh yeah, friend of the show. He's well known. I mean, he's known more as his character name than he's known as his real name. For sure. So I hope to graduate to that someday. But so I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, I really love your stuff." I had already been kind of following him a little bit, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about making my own HCU or my own water bottle or whatever, and I'm actually thinking about selling them. I'm going to do it a little different than what you've got. I'm going to make it shorter, and the attachment I'm going to completely do very different than yours." And so I was just saying, hey, would that be cool? Would that step on your toes at all? Like, would that upset you or anything? And he messaged me back. He's like, dude, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, something that people don't typically do. Sometimes you go on there like, oh, somebody stole my idea. Right. I was like, oh, dude, that guy totally ripped off my idea.
Yeah.
Or guy or girl. But he's like, dude, thank you for asking, and absolutely go for it. There's enough room in the maker sphere for you to do your thing, and you know, I've seen your work. You do good stuff. And then I'd say maybe a month or so passed, and I started to do them and sell a lot of them. And he reached out to me again. He's like, you know what? I kind of have an idea, right? You reached out to me, and we're talking now. What if we get a bunch of guys together that are nice? And supportive, and can look out for each other's interests in the sense that we're sort of like not stepping on each other's toes by making the same product.
Sure, yeah.
We actually kind of say, hey, I've got an idea. Have you done this yet, or is anybody planning on doing something like this?
Yeah.
And then we can also support each other by advertising for one another and saying, you know, hey, you know, Galactic Mercantile Guild product over here, and stuff like that. And also just like be a good resource for technique and pricing. You know, sometimes you're like, hey, what would you buy this for?
Right, yeah.
You know, and it's just good. And right, so it's just like a group of guys, and we have meetings, you know, like quarterly. We get together. We have bylaws. I kid you not, we have bylaws.
Yeah.
And we have voting members, and we have adjunct members.
Okay.
It's like it's a little thing, you know. It's a real guild. You know. And that all came from just me and Mars being cool to each other.
Yeah.
And it's that's kind of the history of the HCU, is right. So it just got born from necessity, plus I don't know, people just like them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they look awesome. I didn't realize like that was the inception of like the Galactic Mercantile Guild, because it did come like out of nowhere when it's first started, and then I loved seeing like oh, if you want, like with the coins, like that one was my favorite, because it's like, oh, if you want this coin, go here. If you want this coin, like I love that, and it's great that there's like an organizational, or not organizational, but like you guys are organized, right? Because it could just be, oh, just a fun internet thing, and we're just kind of doing it, but like taking it seriously and going, hey, this is like a part of our business, and we're supporting each other. I think that's great.
I mean, it goes even further. I mean, we have meetings about insurance. We talk about forming LLCs. We talk about copyright infringement. We talk about all those different things that may affect us, because some of us do this more for their jobs. That I'm not one of those. I have a day job, but other people really are very serious about it, and take the monetary aspect of it serious, because they also don't want to be wasteful of their own time.
Sure.
I mean, we've got one guy who basically has it so dialed in that on his taxes he's able to deduct the amount of power that his printers use in a year, because he's monitoring how much wattage that it's taking from his house. And so because he's smart, he's an insurance guy. So, it's cool, you know, and it definitely opened my eyes to things I had not considered, you know, like getting product insurance, right? What if somebody hurts themselves on one of your products, or chokes on it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's interesting, because it's like some of the things you would have never even thought of, and then now, because those options are known to you, if you ever did want to make that your full-time thing, which I think a lot of people want to do something other than a 9 to 5, you have knowledge now where you can move forward, even especially like the 3D printing and the things that you've created. It's always cool to like grow real life skills, you know, into something that you already love to do. So I think that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the guild is a good group to have, and it's all, you know, as long as everybody's kind of like-minded in the sense that they're supportive and are creatives. And so I think we all kind of respect the heck out of each other's work, which I think is really nice. You know, that nobody kind of looks down their nose at each other and says, oh, well, you know, they're low rent, or, you know, no, everybody's, we're big fans of each other, firstly, you know.
Right.
So
that's cool. How many how many people are in the Mercantile Guild right now?
I lose track. I think I could name off them better than I could count them. So the founding members, the founding members are myself and Mars, along with, and I'll just go with their shop names just in case they don't want their real names out there. Like Jedi Forge is one of them, Order 66 Design, CGS Props, Jettisonable, which is like one of the OGs. I mean, I'm wearing one of his, you know, in the Grey Blue world, like he's been around forever.
Cool.
I'm trying to think of who else were founding members. Propright.
Okay,
Moskrakis Traders.
Okay.
And I think that's all of the originals. We had another gentleman, but he left. It just wasn't working out. But we added people like Total Closet Nerd is in the guild as well.
Yeah, his stuff's great.
Galactic Surplus, sorry, I can't say that, added recently. And then, I feel like I'm missing somebody. And I'm so sorry because I'll beat myself up. But it's about 10 or so. 11.
Yeah. That's solid. That's really cool. Do you have anything in the works for like the next thing? Because, you know, almost a segue into what we're going to talk about, which is the Halcy-Con. But do you have anything that you might be able
absolutely. Yeah, the ideas have been a little slower lately, probably because I've been prepping for Halcy-Con, and it's mostly been just getting product made.
Yeah.
So I have one product that I'm doing at the con that I'm not sure if I'm going to sell afterwards because there's some strict rules about con exclusives. Not to say that I have to offer this as a con exclusive, but if I do, I can only sell it during the con to make sure that's special. So I'm kind of still on the fence about whether I'm going to make it a con exclusive or not.
Right, because it would like stop you from selling after the con and then people getting their hands on it and it not being exclusive.
Yeah, and then it wouldn't make it special anymore, right? Because you had to kind of be there, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like if you're going to and getting an exclusive, you know, figure or something or whatever.
Yeah.
From Comic-Con. So I didn't know that I was going to be going in this realm as a maker, but I do a lot of wearables. I do a lot of medallions. I had this, you know, it didn't start as a medallion. It actually started as Imperial Bounty Ingot is what I have some over here. I have to actually move over here and grab a couple.
You're not the first to slide over. We've seen Mars's.
I'm sure.
Mars's. Please, show and tell is encouraged.
And of course, your viewers are seeing the real thing here. You know, Junk Traders Outpost is located in downtown Lothal, but also is located in a kitchen. You know,
what is
it's
it?
Like in our front kitchen. You know, who isn't, right? Yeah. So it kind of started like this. So you know, people make coins. People make credits for, you know, playing sabacc and stuff like that, and I was like, let's think like a little bit different. And so I was I can't remember I think I was probably watching the Aldani heist of on Andor. You know, and that's where they like load up all those credits and steal like the garrison's payroll or whatever. And the rolls that they had them reminded me of those big gold blocks that we see that are like in Fort Knox or whatever. I said, I haven't really seen anybody do that. You know, we have a Beskar ingot, like, you know, that's obviously a thing. I was like, all right, if there were these like, you know, things that were pressed in you know, a valuable material that had some sort of image on it that was meant to evoke a planet. And I came up with this backstory that was like the Emperor would make up these bounty chits, basically, and give them to his moffs and say, bring me Endor, bring me Yavin, bring me Hoth, right? So these are like sort of prepayments for conquering planets. And I was like, dude, that could be cool. And just have like a little thing, and you could plop it on a table when you're playing sabacc and tell a good story about it or whatever.
Yeah, like a nice big blue chip, right?
Oh yeah. And I always would say when I would give these out on the Halcy-Con, I go, I don't think these are real, but the further you are from the core worlds, the more that those yokels out in the outer rim would buy that story. This is a great bluff, right? And so the bounty ingots kind of turned into these medallions, right? Mm. So I have 23. Basically, I don't think I have any that are unpacked right now. I've packed them all away. Dog tag sized, right? And so basically that same idea where I have to like design 3D elements like very flat. Yeah. I've done that for like 23 different planets. Oh, that's awesome. For Halcy-Con, I'm doing a version of that it's just for Halcy-Con, and it has the ship on it.
That's cool.
Right. So it's the ship, 2 planets, and the word Halcy-On. But then what's on the back is a little bit more special because I usually don't do the backs. Okay. I usually just do like a maker stamp. Yeah. So I still have my maker stamp down at the bottom. It has the Drilla Starline logo, and then it says home. That's in awesome. Arabesh, right? So, obviously, the Halcy-On is a very sentimental place for a lot of people, and so I go, oh man, wouldn't it be great if people could just like wear this thing and it says home? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing there.
Yeah, I want to commend you, man. Like, I love the storytelling behind the thing because it's not just the thing. Like, it's not just a coin. You're like, oh, I thought of a cool design and, just throw it together and, now it's just this medallion or whatever. I love that there's like a story, a backstory, because we do backstories in Burgundy Squad for like OCs and things. But for it to be, like you said, functional products, things that actually mean something, I love that extra step that you're taking with your stuff. I think that makes it super special.
Well, thank you. I think it's what makes it make sense to me. Like, artistically, most of my friends say stop being humble or you're an idiot, cut it out. But I usually say I'm really not that creative. So what helps me is sort of like connecting dots and doing thought experiments or 6 degrees of separation. This thing makes me think of this thing, makes me think of this thing. I mean, that's where this came from, right? This thing makes me think that it's kind of a logical progression. So it's not creative necessarily. It's more problem solving. Yeah. I'm not that great of an artist, but if I can think about how an object is used, then I would know how it would be scratched. Yeah. I would know how it's being scuffed because I'm thinking about how it's really used in the real world. So putting a scratch there is really making sense of an object as opposed to like artistically placing something nicely, because they're rarely convenient, those scratches and things. They in our real lives they like destroy things. I've got this ding on the back of my car that is in a very inconvenient place, right? But it's on a corner because corners stick out and corners get scuffed and nicked up, right? And so that helps me tremendously, is thinking about the object, holding it in my hands. I sometimes will literally hold an object in my hands and think about how I would hold it, and then I put the where my thumb would be, right? Like I've got an object right here. So this is a little light that I got from Daiso, I think. Yeah, shout out to Daiso. I get a lot of stuff from Daiso because it's cheap. And so I put a little greebly on the bottom that I found literally just walking home from work one day. It's like part of a sprinkler head. Okay. And so I was like, okay, so I wanted this like cool looking light. I wanted to try a new color combination so it like pops open. Oh yeah. And so you can kind of use it as like a work light. But again, not particularly creative, but what I can do is like, okay, so if I were to hold this in my hand, where would it scuff? Where would it wear? Yeah. And I literally just do that. I mark it like where my thumb would be. Yeah. So there's a wear spot right there because that's where a normal human would hold it, mess with it. So, yeah. And so I think that storytelling not only helps me make artistic decisions, but it helps the object like live in a world. And then it gives it meaning and purpose. And so I want to make things that have meaning and purpose as opposed to just like an object with no purpose. So, I mean, that's why I think Greeblies are so challenging in a lot of ways because nobody really knows what they do.
Yeah. I think as a kid, I assumed it was like a communicator like in Star Trek, but It's more of like a badge for like.
Yeah. I think it's a communicator, but we wear, it's like I don't have like a thermal exhaust port on me, and if I do, maybe I need to go see a doctor. I don't know.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, the objects need to make sense. So we've got the Halcy-Con thing, but literally this was a 1 hour decision and build. So I was thinking about our merch table. So at Halcy-Con, Galactic Mercantile Guild's going to have a merch table, and I'll be there representing all our folks.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to kind of do some giveaways, because that's always fun to get interactivity going on at a booth. Whenever I go to cons, the more that I get to interact with the people, the more fun I have, and more likely I buy things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a runner, so I go to a lot of like running conventions, and they almost always like have a Wheel of Fortune where it's like, all right, here, you could win a granola bar or a gym membership, And so it's like, okay, well, I have all these stickers, just lots of stickers, and yes, I could just give them away, but I thought it'd be more fun if I made it sort of like a game of chance. Ooh. So I made, and you can't see them very well because they're quite small.
Okay.
I made mid-rim chance cubes.
Nice.
So not those janky outer rim, those blue and red ones like Watto has. These are a little bit more posh.
Okay.
But yeah, so you can kind of see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more posh. They're not core world. They're not made of really heavy nice metals. But so they're a little bit more refined than a regular chance cube. So I tried to make interesting shapes.
Yeah.
As opposed to just cubes. And it has a Grec on it. For G or for gold.
Okay.
I don't know what S's name is, but it has an S on it.
Okay.
And it has a W. And so I basically just said, all right, so if you roll 2 golds, you get the first one. If you roll 2 silvers, you get the second one. If you roll a gold and a silver, you get the third one. And if you get a wild, which is the W, Wesk, is you get to choose what the other dice is.
Oh.
Right? So if you have a gold and you want that number 1, you could make it gold.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun.
That's cool.
Right? So it's like, hey, let's just roll some chance cubes.
Yeah.
And I think I'll sell these. I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, you know, put them in the store, where like I'd grab some dice. Like, you know how we love dice now.
Oh yes, we do. I know. I was gonna say, a brother of that kind. We've got dice coming out of our ears.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So what other kind of Halcy-Con prep are you doing? Like, you're talking about bringing like, products and stuff. Are you getting some from like a lot of the members to take? If you're like the representative, is there any other guild members going to be able to show up too, or are you going to be on your own?
Yeah. Yes to Outpost, all of those things.
Okay, cool.
But even backing up further, just for folks who might not know, so Halcy-Con is the first weekend in October, and it's the first convention celebrating the Galactic Star Cruiser Halcyon, the quote-unquote Star Wars hotel, right? Some people might not know.
Sure. No, this is great.
About 6. Yeah, no worries. It's about 600 people, I think, are attending. Wow. That's pretty dang decent for a first con, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's probably bigger than the first Comic-Con in San Diego in the
probably,
70s or whatever. Yeah. And so at the beginning part of this, they asked for submissions for all sorts of ideas. And then over the last year or so, they've kind of sifted it down to a bunch of stuff. So I'll be there as a vendor. I'll be there as a panelist of 2 panels. And then we'll see for the other thing. I'm not quite sure about the other thing just yet. But so for the panel, for the table, the merch table, it'll be Galactic Mercantile Guild. But it's mostly just me.
Yeah.
I will be there repping the guild, mostly with my own things. But Mars, that corner in Coruscant, will have merch on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Order 66 will have merch on the table.
Cool.
I think Mos Gracchus might have some for me as well. So it's whomever is to send it to Florida in time. Because I'm from California, so I'm not going to. That would be very, very difficult to take all of that in my luggage.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I'm going to take the stuff I currently have in my luggage. We'll see. I've got like 5 or 6 outfits planned.
Nice.
And so yes, they'll be able to purchase Junk Traders Outpost stuff for sure, because I'll be there. But then about 4 or so other guildmates will have their stuff on the table, and I've got some friends helping with the table, and some guild folks are going to be there, but it's kind of unclear, what their role is going to be at this time, but they'll definitely be around.
Very cool.
Yeah, the panels I'm on are on a makers panel, so that's pretty cool.
I was going to ask what the panels were going to be.
Yeah, I feel really cool about that, right? Because this is literally the first panel I've ever been on, and it's like a nerd's dream. I've attended Comic-Con many years, and I've actually worked press for Comic-Con from time to time, and that's just such a cool experience.
Awesome.
And then to be on a panel, that's like kind of like the last part of it that I've never done, and I'm super thrilled. So it's a makers panel with myself, Ryan Street from I Am Geek podcast and Living with the Landspeeder. He makes these really cool custom Kyber crystals, some of which are the drinks of the Halcy-Con.
Okay.
Like all the little drinks, they're Kyber crystals, and they're all RFID chipped as well.
Very cool.
And then Amrod Sekar from Amrod's Armory. He makes a bunch of stuff and is a really nice guy. He'll be there. And then Hyperspams will be there, who are like the chief name in Sabak.
Yeah.
And they are super nice people, and they will be on the makers panel as well.
I think I have some of their credits actually that they made.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, who doesn't? They're fantastic stuff. And then the other panel is our book club. So I'm in a Star Wars book club, and we've been reading books together for about a year, and we pitched that as a panel, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. This is part of the fandom. Let's do it.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. I know when we talked about doing this podcast, I said we got to do a follow-up. So we're definitely going to have you back on to I got to hear about this con, because I unfortunately didn't go on the Halcyon. I didn't expect it to go away. I kind of want to hear about your...
Me neither.
I thought we all had time to, to experience it, and I hope in some form or fashion we get something, but we'll see. But with this con, being kind of like a celebration of what it was, could I ask what your experience was like when you got to go to the Star Cruiser?
Oh, absolutely. It's a kind of a weird story, honestly, and it'll definitely tie back into costuming, I think.
Sure.
So I don't want to say like everybody, because if it was like everybody, it'd probably still be open. Because it would have a higher attendance rate, which of course they struggle with a little bit. It was a little too niche for certain folks, and it doesn't have the repeatability that parks have.
Yeah.
And the price point obviously was a big turnoff for a lot of people, and I totally get it. So when I heard about it, I was just so thrilled, because Batuu was like the entry gate where you can go and you can play around, but you can walk out. But like, this is the Super Bowl. This is the prom. Like, you have to, you don't have to, but having a backstory and a reason to be on the ship, because, everything that I had heard about it was like, you're invited to be as part of it as much as you want to. And when I go to Batuu, I always am all in, because it's strange to say this, but I feel so comfortable wearing my kit when I'm in Batuu. Like, I don't feel out of place. I feel in place.
Yeah.
I feel like very comfortable. Like, I love my boots, and I was like, I wish I could wear these every day. I feel like myself.
Yeah.
And it's very liberating to be able to sort of wear the things that make you feel great about yourself. And the Halcyon, that's what it's all about, right? You are who you are from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, because it's all in universe.
Yeah.
And that immersion is just exactly what I wanted in my life at that time. And it really unlocked a younger part of myself that I had forgotten was even in there.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Right? There's this part of us that I think probably for me it was like late teens, where it was like, no, playing isn't cool anymore. You have to look and feel and be as cool as possible. At least those are the pressures I felt.
Yeah.
Growing up where I grew up, and just the sort of the life track I was on, and all that fun we used to have as kids gets like stuffed down deep down somewhere. And going on the Halcyon reminded me of how healthy that is, to go out and just use your imagination and verbally play and physically play and play with others and do things collaboratively and live in a shared reality that you're creating together. It's like the most liberating creative feeling that you can feel, and it's very addictive. I will say.
I imagine.
And so my experience was this, and I'll try to keep it short, but
take your time.
I basically had 2.5 experiences.
Okay.
So we went to the Galactic Star Cruiser in, I want to say it was like June of a year, and I can't remember which year specifically. And we went with the whole family. It was myself, my wife, and our 2 kids, and we were just ready for like the adventure of a lifetime. And we had the adventure of a lifetime for about 24 hours for me. And then I was floored by one of the worst migraines I've ever had in my life. I suffer from headaches. Luckily, I'm able to manage them pretty well. I know myself pretty well. But it was so bad that I couldn't keep my medication down. I couldn't eat, and it's a sad story, but I won't go into too much detail.
Yeah.
So I basically missed the entire second day, and the second day is, now knowing what the second day is like, it's really the day. It's the most adventurous. It's where everything pays off. So I only got to see the preliminaries. I got to meet some characters. I got to make some appointments with some characters, and they're like, "Oh, hey, tomorrow, let's do it," And it was like, "Oh, it's on."
Yeah.
But then I was floored, right? And then I was floored, so I didn't get to experience any of day 2. So the day after, we're going back to the airport or a hotel or something, and my wife's like, "Well, we have to go back, right?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, we do," because intermittently throughout the day, my kids would run into the thing. "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened. Chewbacca, we had to get him out of the brig."
Yeah.
It's like, that sounds great. I'm dying over here.
Yeah.
But the good news is those rooms are dark.
Oh, okay.
It's a headache sufferer's dream because it's blackout.
Okay,
it's so good. So we did go back, and my wife and I went back together, just the 2 of us, and it was a fantastic experience because, again, I love my children.
Yeah.
But it's a little different when you're caring for others. And
100%.
I myself tend to want to put them first and really let them have the experience, even though it's really for me. Because I'm like, this is my stuff, you guys. Chewbacca's over there. I push him out of the way. Like, I got stuff to talk about with Chewie. Get out of here.
Yeah. Move.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Of course.
So we went back, the 2 of us, and it was the perfect trip. It was the perfect experience. I got to know one of the characters very intensely. I became really good friends with Wraith Cole, the character. Cole.
Yeah, I've seen your picture.
And he has and he has an entourage that he forms around him that have certain roles to play in this heist that has to happen, and so I became what's called his right-hand man.
Nice.
Which is like one of the most important roles. And funnily enough, most of my guild friends who have been on the Halcy-Con have also been his right-hand man. Right? Because it's just, after working with the actors a little bit, and I'm not going to reveal any secrets or identities or anything. But having talked with a couple of the actors, the simplest way I'll answer it without any spoilers is they really look for people they can trust, because it's a partnership to create story for other people, that they are looking for conspirators, really, of people who are going to heighten the experience for others because they themselves are passengers. And so, a lot of the people that they pull in to do some of these key elements of the story are people that they are kind of sussing out to see, what, I think this guy can do it. He's trustworthy. So far, he's passed kind of all the tests of what I've asked him to do. And so it was a perfect voyage. I also got to have a very intimate experience with the Force. I was able to move some rocks with one of the Saja. So it was like the perfect voyage. So I came away from that going, oh my God, that's it. I'm good. I'm good. If we don't go back for another year or 2 years, maybe when the kids are a little older and they can kind of do their own thing and they're not, I mean, it's very safe. They could roam the ship if they wanted to. I wouldn't have any qualms about it at all. But we just we can wait. We've gone a couple times in too short of order. This is like kind of hard to afford,
Yeah.
So let's put it on the back burner so we can save some money. But then I want to say it was probably 3 weeks later they announced the closure.
Yeah.
And so it was so heartbreaking after such a intensive experience. And then I went home and I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, if you wanted to go back, you could. Right? I mean, isn't it wonderful to have such a enabler?
Yeah. You're very lucky. That's awesome.
Enablers. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. And she knows what I love, and she knows what I'm passionate about, and she doesn't stand in my way of those things, nor do I stand in the way of what she's passionate about either. And so she's like, if you can do it, do it. Just go. And I go, by myself? And she's like, well, if you want. And then she came up with the best idea, which is, why don't you go with Phil? So Phil is my buddy who I met on our second voyage. He and me and his wife and my wife, we really hit it off.
Nice.
In fact, I have friends I keep in touch with still from every single voyage.
That's so cool. Yeah.
On voyage 1, I met this woman named Stephanie, and she's in our book club.
Awesome.
I met Phil and his wife, and we hang out all the time. Whenever I'm in LA, I go visit my friend Phil.
Yeah.
And then my third voyage, 2 more book club people, Chelsea and Addison, and then of course a few of the actors I have become close with, and it's just such a wonderful relationship with them. And so the third voyage, I did go back.
Yeah.
I called Phil up and I said, Phil, I have a very serious question to ask you. And he's like, what, man? He's very excited.
Yeah.
And I go, let's go back to the Halcy-Con. And he's like, but we were just there. And I go, I know, but it's closing. Right. He's like, I know, man. No, I still have. They're gonna do something. It's gonna be like, Hail Mary. I go, no, we just gotta go, man. And so he's like, okay, I gotta ask Michelle. And so he went. I could literally hear him in the background. He's like, Adam's on the phone. He wants to go to the Star Cruiser again. And she's like, you can go play with your friends.
Yeah.
She didn't say it that way, but that's basically
yeah, it's like knocking on your friend's door, like, hey, can he come out and play? Like, we're just gonna hang out.
Exactly. But see, getting back to that, where play is such an important part of life. And so we played the phone roulette, and I think I was on the phone for 7 hours that day, and we got a booking.
Nice.
And we went again.
Yeah.
And so first voyage was 4 people. The second voyage was 2 people, and then the third voyage it was solo me, but I was with my buddy Phil.
Right.
So it was really 4 to 2 to 1. And then it wasn't the quote unquote perfect voyage like voyage 2 was, but I was calling it the farewell voyage.
Of course.
So me and Phil really sat back and enjoyed just sitting there some days.
Yeah.
Just listening to the sounds and hanging out in the bar as much as possible because that's where we want to be, and talking with actors not only as characters, because sometimes they know who you are.
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of funny. I didn't think of that, but if you've been on more than one time, they go, "Oh, I recognize that guy," and they form relationships.
Yeah.
And so we really tried to pay appreciation to the actors. I had lots of gifts for them to make sure that they knew that they were appreciated.
Yeah.
And then the last part of it, which was so special, is Phil brought his nephew and his uncle. And his uncle, amazing guy, huge 3D printer guy. He's a miniature painter and all this.
Cool. Yeah.
He was the exact demographic of people that they didn't win enough of over. He's the kind of guy which is like, why would I want to spend $5,000 on that when I could buy a really cool lightsaber?
Yeah.
And he was super grumpy, and he was very skeptical about everything.
Yeah.
But we convinced him, and we're like, no, Carlos, trust us.
Yeah.
We know that this is going to change your life.
Yeah.
And he shows up, and of course he looks amazing. He's got his own printed like Mando gear on. He's got like this like desert look.
Yeah,
he looks fantastic.
I was gonna ask if he was dressed. I was like, please tell me he was dressed.
Oh man, I wish. I'll send you a picture. But man, for a guy who'd never cosplayed before, like he was like top tier.
Nice.
And I was like, dude, you are so cool.
Yeah.
And then his son, you know, Phil's nephew. I mean, he just wore kind of like a black vest.
Sure.
You know. It wasn't even Han Solo. It was just kind of like a puff vest, you know. But he was doing his best, you know.
Yeah.
And within, I'd say about 10 minutes of being on the ship, like he pulled Philip aside. He says, "I've been so wrong." Like he's like, "I wish I had not been so stubborn. This is amazing."
Yeah.
And when he got off the ship, he's like, "That changed my life." Like I'm seeing things differently. I need to stop being so skeptical about good things and just trust.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so special. I think, I know the drinks probably helped too. He had a fair bit of those.
Especially if you made friends with a bartender, I mean, get a little bit more spiciness, you know?
Absolutely. You always make friends with the bartenders. I at least 3 or 4 of them, and they're fabulous people.
Yeah.
I visit them where they work now, and
nice.
It's so awesome to see them, you know? But no, I mean, I think that's what the transformative power of that place was. Is it just had a lot of levels of entry that really gently guided people into it if you were willing to take the leap.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing, though, is the leap is the hardest part.
Yeah.
But once you get there, they take care of you so well that it just makes it so easy and so natural and so fun that you leave very changed.
Yeah.
And I truly think it changed me in so many ways for the better.
Yeah. Do you think that Disney could do another experience like that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just think they would have to really be strategic about what it is that they want from it. I think just, you know, sort of the corporate and financial climate that we're on is things cost so much on the front end that people don't want to take risks.
Yeah.
And this was a gigantic risk. And, you know, when you get burned, it's really hard to trust again.
Yeah.
And again, they didn't get burned by anybody. It's just it didn't work out how they hoped or had planned, or maybe they didn't foresee some of the challenges that they would have with it.
Right.
And so I think in older days, and again, I don't even want to put it on a decade or whatever, I think there were times in businesses where they thought about the long game a little bit more often, which is we may lose the battle, but we may win the war in the long term by we're going to put a bunch of money into an idea that will pay off in a material sense later on.
Right.
Because the idea is the thing that we need to invest in, right? I mean, Disney is famous for creating so many new technologies that change, you know, entertainment. And this changed entertainment fundamentally. Like you can see all around people trying to replicate this idea of immersion and interactivity. You know, and Disney's going to have some real competition because they've really thrown the gauntlet down, but they didn't kind of keep it.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't like hold on to that tight to go, you know what, we may lose money on this for a long time, but if we just believe in it hard enough, eventually it can come around, you know? And I think that it just wasn't the right time to be able to do such a thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's a shame, but it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to take those big swings, you know, to find that right idea. Like it's not always going to be a home run. You know, you're going to have a lot of misses. I mean, that coincides with costuming and prop making. Like how many costumes have I gone through where I'm like, this isn't working, or the next iteration of like my chest piece or my helmet, or even, you know, props that you've made. I'm sure you could think about it in the same way. But with that idea, like in that immersion and what they have with Galaxy's Edge, I feel like that's the next thing of entertainment, like you were saying, because people are looking for experiences, right? It's just, I think the price point was a little too high, and I don't think they talked about it or marketed it as well as someone who got to experience it like you. I mean, I got goosebumps when you were telling me about your friends.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh, like I love that that thought, like of the live action role play, right? I've done RPGs, you know, video games, and there's just never a cross where it's like cosplay costuming and role playing like it is with what you're describing. And I'm hoping that more people can get that, because there's a lot of people who've never even been to a con and they never dress up, and that's a total different experience going in regular clothes and a costume.
Totally.
Like, it's a totally different thing. But
yes,
yeah,
and I think it's very doable, and I think that the hard part is like the repeatability, but also, you know, the parks make money because they are able to churn a lot of traffic
right
through, and a 2-day stay that's really dictated by like the sleep cycle of a person and also meal cycle.
Yeah,
you know, that's really hard when you're kind of hemmed into those sort of things that we're used to. So
yeah,
if anybody's going to create something that's new, it's going to have to be something that either is like fast and digestible, or if it is longer, that it has you know, a price point or these other sort of compromises that allow it to be a more palatable to the sort of the average, you know, consumer.
Yeah.
Right. Because the average Batuan, you know, the average visitor to Batuu is not in cosplay.
Right.
Right. I mean, there are times when I go that I'm the only person that I see all day in any sort of bounding.
Yeah.
And when I see another person, I point, like Leonardo DiCaprio as much as possible, because I want to make the heck out of that. Those are my people.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not as common as you would think. Now, there's lots of regulars. There are people who go to Batuu all the time, and they become almost like secondary citizens in some ways. But like the average casual person doesn't do it as much as you would think.
Yeah.
So, that's not the average person. The average person in Batuu East is a guy from Daytona wearing flip flops and a tank top.
Right.
That's the average person, really.
Yeah.
And they get millions of those per year.
Sure.
So that's where you make your money.
Yeah.
So
I always imagine, and I feel like Halcy-Con was kind of like it, but I'm not sure if you watched Westworld.
I didn't, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Because I mean, even just on entry, they're like, "Hey, you got to wear this costume." Like, it was part of the whole immersion. And when I was talking to my cosplay friends when Halcyon and the Star Cruiser was beginning, it was like, oh, it'd be really cool, instead of having just to buy the clothes, they're like, hey, we have all sizes in these rentals, wear this, be immersed, play, and just kind of push that, because it's totally possible.
Oh yeah,
it's totally possible.
And even if it was just like a bit of gear or something, just something to like accompany what you're doing to make you feel a little bit more. And like, if it's just a jacket or something simple, but then others are encouraged, like, if you have your own, do it. Do your own thing. You're absolutely right. I think they kind of tried to go middle of the road where, I want to say it was like 3 months beforehand, you then had access to the online shop where you could buy some of these things.
I remember that. Yeah.
But the problem with that is, nobody knew who those characters were, or why those pieces would be significant, or what they'd be used for. Again, if you're an average person, you wouldn't know that this coat with these metal things on it was like this formal, Alderanian business coat, or this was formal wear, or you just, and then they had some character ones, right? There's a jumpsuit for the kids, and that was based on one of the engineer characters. There was like a captain's outfit. But again, I don't know of anything where I go and buy something in advance that I don't know anything about the character.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I really want this thing. I don't know who they are, but I want it. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's a hard sell for sure, especially with like the price point already. And then you're like, oh, hey, buy this $100, $200 outfit, and you're like, oh, okay, sure. If you have the means to, but if not, like you said, it's just like uninformed. And I feel like if they kind of done something different with the marketing, I think it could have possibly went a little bit further on the path that it's on.
Yeah, something like sort of a set of gear that is a certain thing. It's like, you want to be a scoundrel? Here's the scoundrel set.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a rebel? Here's the rebel set. You got a little darkness in you? Here's the first order set. Or
right.
Yeah, I mean, just the being alone of that, I think, would be a little easier for the average person, and an easier entry point, probably. Yeah.
Would you want something like we're speaking of, I guess, let's say 20% of what the Halcyon did just in the parks. Maybe run into the characters, and then they send you on a mission with your data pad to someone else on the other side of the park, and then it just feels
absolutely
okay.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's a really great sort of like compromise in some ways, which is Galaxy's Edge was always pitched as like live your own adventure,
right?
And there are aspects of it, but it's very much like I was talking about Outlaws with my friend the other day, and it's kind of the difference between Outlaws and Jedi Survivor.
Okay,
is that a lot of Jedi Survivor feels very empty, right? You're in these like big open areas, and yes, from time to time you encounter like this stormtrooper that starts to shoot at you or whatever. But Outlaws is bustling full of people doing their own thing.
Yeah,
and that I think is really attractive to folks like us. But what we get really in Batuu is these sort of quote unquote like disconnected experiences that you can go on the data pad and do these missions, but there's really no payoff for it, and you don't interact with people based on it. You interact with like objects, and you can get the X-wing to make noise, or you can get this tower to power up, which I mean it's cool.
That's cool.
When you figure out how to like make the Falcon make noise behind people while they're taking their photo, it's pretty fun actually. And like, oh, how'd that happen? But like I really think it's the human element that really makes the difference, which is the role playing, or the talking with people, the interacting. That's the prize.
Yeah.
And I think it can be done, right? Which is you've got these curated character people. We are characters in the parks, that there's maybe just like an informant or whatever. And, as part of the data pad, it goes, all right, now go see the informant who's over here. And you go up to this, are you the informant? And it'll be fun if you're wrong 5 times.
Sure. Yeah.
Where they're like, no, I don't, I'm from New Mexico.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even from here. The bathrooms are over there. Side story. One of the fun things when we're in the parks is we kind of have a little running tally of how many times people have asked us where the bathrooms are.
Oh, interesting.
Most folks assume that the cosplayers work there.
Yeah, our cast members. Yeah.
Very flattering. It is very flattering. So it's really like, oh wow, the average person thinks that I belong here, and that's like the most complimentary thing. I got something new that my friends don't even know about. So I told a couple friends, or was it at the RPG we talked about? I can't remember. But
I don't think so. I haven't heard this.
So
story.
I was I did single rider on the Smuggler's Run.
Okay.
My wife just wasn't feeling it that day.
Sure.
And so I did single rider, and I was on there with this family of 4 who had never been on it before. And I was talking to them in character. I was kind of light bounding that day because it was warm, so I didn't have all my gear on. And I said, oh, you're going to love it. I mean, this is, again, fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, but how are you as a pilot, kiddo? There's like this, little 5-year-old or whatever, and they're like, what, pilot? I go, yeah, you're going to, hey, best seat in the house, the right-hand pilot seat. That's where you get to do the hyperdrive.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids were, having a good old time. And so when we got on board the ship, and there's that area that's basically the engineering area, the family's sitting down at the Jaric table, and I go, hey, I can take your picture if you want. I mean, this is a great spot. And they go, oh wow, yeah, please, thank you. So I take their picture, and we go off, and we're waiting for our flight, and then somebody comes and like tugs on my sleeve, and they're like, why won't you take our picture? And I go, oh, because I don't work here. And like, oh, we thought the photographer, right? And so. Right, which is fantastic. That's a first.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of kitted out or whatever, and I had turned my back, and they had sat down because they thought they were next in line.
Yeah.
And they were like kind of upset that I was ignoring them.
Oh man.
And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to think that I worked here. I actually don't, but I would love to take your picture.
Sure. Yeah. You're like, we paid for the photo pass, man. Like, you got to take our picture.
I know. Yeah, I go, yeah, well, we got to go see Dave then. Dave's great. He's a great photographer, But no, I mean, it's the stuff like that where even in the casual interactions with guests, like it's just fun to play.
Yeah.
And it makes it, and Disney folks are so good at this, right?
Yeah.
It's those interactions with just the cast members or the characters where you know, a little girl is dressed up as a prince and they bow every time a kid is dressed up like that's like making magic, right? That's what they call it. They try to make magic all day for people, and I think that's such a beautiful sentiment. You know, I think more people should do that more often, right? Just kind of make people's days special.
For sure.
You know,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely made this podcast special. I really appreciate.
And we barely talked about costuming.
I know, it's fine. Well, this isn't specifically about costuming. It's just learning more about, you know, the cool people on the internet. And we're definitely going to have to circle back around after Halcy-Con because I want to hear about that. I want to hear about your experience. I'm going to have to grab Doug and Kate again because I know they're sneaking on. They're sneaking in.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited to...
Yeah, you know, they never went on the Star Cruiser, but they're going nonetheless because they're awesome people and they're super curious and they're down. They're fantastic parts of the Star Cruiser community, even though they never went on it. So that's how wonderfully inclusive it is.
Yeah. No, I think this group, like Burgundy Squad and, you know, these creators that are making Star Wars stuff, I feel like this is kind of like Droidsmiths. Yeah, the droid. We didn't even talk about that either. There's so many.
Yep, I do a little bit of that too.
Yeah, you're in that community too. Yeah, I definitely want to have you back on to talk more about this stuff because we only scratched the surface on Star Wars. I wanted to ask you about like movies and, you know, you growing up with it, but I don't want to take your time.
Yes.
You know, you got a family. I got one back here huffing and puffing. She's she's ready for Dad to be back. But thank you so much for being on the pod. Where can people find you?
Junk Traders Outpost on Etsy and all Junk Traders Outpost on Instagram. Those are kind of the two places I spend my most time. I don't post on Instagram as much as I would like, but it's pretty weekly, you know. Sure. And if there's a Ferrex Friday, I'm definitely trying to be involved in it in some way, shape, or form. So just go find me there, and you'll see. Again, I promise you, at some point we will talk costuming. There's, you know, as many of my looks on there, and then pretty much every product, and hundreds of HCUs. Not a single one is the same as the other. Let's see how many you can count.
Yeah, if you want one, tap into the Junk Traders Outpost for sure. If you want more information or more stuff, cool stuff like the Core Creators podcast, we're coming up with the Overtime DM info. Stay here, stay tuned on the Rain Core channel. I'm actually doing like reactions to music videos and now the Penguin on HBO Max. There's a bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline, so make sure you're subscribed, like, and comment. And again, thank you so much for being on the show, and I hope the rest of you have a great rest of your galactic wonderful days. Punch it, Chewie. Boom. We're out of here. Burgundy Squad out. Bye, guys.